We have Alex Yang here as a director of Connected Banking from Bank of America, and he'll be talking about delivering real-time data for corporate treasurers. They like real-time data, right?
I hope so. So I am standing between you and the break. By a quick show of hands, how many of you are in a profit center role? Client-facing, sales, okay? Okay, so product, I'd be a cost center role. So the rest of you, are you in a cost center role? Cost center role, okay. All right, so when I was preparing this presentation, some of the proposed topics were about how to create an emotional connection to your customers, how to differentiate yourselves when everything looks the same. And I've been a cash flow product manager at Bank of America for 25 years, and I've been responsible for things of all aspects of payments, collections, information reporting. I've led consulting teams and integration teams to help with connectivity to ERPs and treasury management systems. And I've also been involved in standards going way back to EDIFACT and EDI and ISO XML. And what I would like to share with you today is how, as a product manager, I attempt to create that emotional connection with my clients. And perhaps you can take away some of these techniques. You can ask me anything. We are in the AMA Center. And, we can talk about how, for example, you can convince a corporate treasurer to adopt something like real-time payments, okay? These are our standard client-facing slides. So when I am training our sales officers and relationship managers, we go back to the old spin selling technique, identify the current situation, identify the problem, figure out the implications of it, and then propose a need because it is complex, right? And it is different than just going out and selling a product, because when people start talking about how do you sell an API, how do you sell an RTP, the answer is always, it depends. What are you trying to solve? Because if everything is fine, if they're running an SAP shop and everything's done at the end of the day and they don't need it, RTP may not make much sense for you, okay? So the difference between traditional banking techniques and something that is enabled by real-time banking techniques like an API, it has to mean something to the person considering it. If they're never going to operate in a real-time framework, if they don't value the technology, if, for example, they're still running old tech stacks, then nothing you do, either as a product manager or as a sales officer, is going to matter. They're just not going to change. And you always have to figure out, is it cheaper, better, faster for them in that environment? The whole move to cloud is because it is cheaper, it is more resilient, right? The move to RTP is it becomes more available. And the best way to convince someone to do something is to find that really eager tech early adopter, make them really happy, and then broadcast their success to other people. Because once you have one person doing it, other people can iterate and continue to create variations based on that. Some of the things that we do at Bank of America is we present this is how things used to be, and this is what you can consider in the future. And by doing so, you give clients and corporate treasurers the ability to think about how they want their environment to be, how they want to be able to travel and operate on their mobile devices, for example, or how they can pay out at 10:30 in the evening, right? That's the type of conversation you want to have when you are very client-facing. That's the sort of approach you should have as a product manager to say, how can I make my product, my service actually used and demanded by my customers? Because the worst products are those that you launch and then no one uses. It happens. One of the things about making products available to use, and this goes into the API philosophy and the open banking philosophy. So I represent Bank of America at various standardization and open banking workshops, and whether it is FDX or Affinis here in the United States or SWIFT outside the United States, the desire to collaborate I strongly believe in it. And I guess to my detriment, because I was the first one to say Bank of America is going to offer APIs openly and for free. That made it really difficult for anyone else. But that's what I believe. Open banking is about open sharing of information, open access to it, and not being burdened by that cost. So therefore, we say just very transparently, anything you are wondering about for something that's live and in production, here it is. Go to a developer portal. It's like going to Google's developer portal, PayPal's developer portal. We're not trying to compete with banks. We're trying to emulate the most desirable aspects of technology as we know it in the modern world. The conversation around security, this is an RTP and a cybersecurity forum, cannot be underestimated. And these are terms that are meaningful to your clients, to certain aspects of your clients. And I have conversations with my product team and other product managers about, why are you focusing on security? Well, the answer is always, first, we are Bank of America. It's just what we do. We always have a slide about security, no matter what we say. But then, why are you being so specific in your technical terms? Why do you talk about RESTful APIs and JSON and JWA and JWS? Because it matters to the tech teams. Your specificity will reduce the anxiety that they have about adopting something new. So if you're going to talk RTP to someone that has to do the work, and that tech team, you give them all the documentation in advance, like the gentleman from Levio was saying, how you could improve testing. Clear, accessible documentation, let them devise their own use cases. Great advice. You should definitely do that. Instead of relying upon your testers to make things up, let someone who may consume your product or service figure it out themselves. Let them test the heck out of it. But then for security and control, the layers that you can put in front of clients and make them aware of what it means to their current framework, the current situation. So if they're accustomed to going to your portal and logging on with user ID and password, emphasize that is still available to them. When you choose access channels, you're not choosing one over the other. They are all very complementary. And then all the additional technology, emphasize the modern nature of it. These are terms that are just in the world. These are worldwide global industry standards. They're not Bank of America things. We're not doing anything special or proprietary, because that wouldn't fit within the open banking framework. Okay. Emphasize, for example, right here, we talk about security. It has to happen. And using this technology and this security, it doesn't cost any more. And that's something that technology, when you're talking to your clients' tech teams, they like. For playing around and doing it at their own pace, it won't cost them anything more than their time. And if you make information accessible to them and available to them and very clear about what they can do, then they don't have to spend as much time on it. They can give good, accurate estimates of what it takes to adopt something like RTP, right? Give them good examples. Show them the steps that go along with using a product. If you want RTP, one, you have to be approved by the clearinghouse. You have to be someone that can actually do it. And then you have to decide to connect your system to a framework that allows you to send out an RTP, or the reverse, to request a payment and get it back. Lay it out in steps that anyone can understand. And therefore, as I said before, these are our client-facing slides. I'm not trying to target treasurers specifically. I'm trying to target the entire team to not use jargon, to make it graphically appealing, and thereby, once a sales officer has shared a deck, you never know who's going to have access to it. If you're bidding on government services, for example, it's now public on the internet forever. So make it easy to understand so that you don't have to talk about it in person. Instead, you can leave it and then talk about what they're really trying to do that would benefit their business. And then finally, case studies. These are the reasons why your product exists. for a client, for example, that was running a title and settlement company, right? During the great refinancing boom, everyone's buying and selling homes. The need to be able to operate beyond your Fedwire cutoffs was very, very great. If they were going to have the team members from 8 a.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Pacific, they needed a different means by which they can send out money. And that's why they were willing to connect their system to ours, to use RTP, and in that way take advantage of that broader time frame. Okay. And for those clients that may say, my old system works just fine for my ACAs and checks, but I'm really interested in RTPs, what can you do? You can emphasize that they don't have to change what they're currently doing. They could start a new integration point with an API and in effect say this process that you want to try out can be stood up very, very quickly, very securely, very easily as an API, and in that way be able to meet your business needs while reducing the burden on your tech teams. Last slide is a disclosure slide. I'm not going to show it to you. You're not going to read it. Doesn't matter. So at this point, what questions can I answer for you? Yes.
There's over 400 ERP platforms in the US alone, plus a number of accounting platforms. Connecting an API, so making a customer transition from a legacy platform to a cloud-based platform on an accounting software, it's hard and it's expensive, just like changing course for a bank is the same thing. How can this make that transition easier to get them interested in RTP faster or better?
Yeah, the answer should first be to understand what system they are running. We have over 400 clients live in production using our APIs, and by way of comparison, there's 10 times more using file transmissions, and then 100 times more just interacting with our bank portal. Those clients that choose APIs are doing so in spite of, or really just because they want to, regardless of what their core systems are running. And to the extent where some ERP or treasury management system providers have decided to pre-build an integration and then offer it to them, they do that because they see the benefits of supporting those customers. But when someone wants RTP, for example, they can clearly articulate the business case, and their sales officer should be helping them make that argument to say, you get 6 more operating hours. You reduce your wire cost by 10 times, right? It's that sort of mentality to identify the need and the payoff, and then in that way elicit change. The only thing better than free is for me to pay my client to do something, which Bank of America, we're not going to do. But, I get almost to that point to say, I have all the code, I have all the examples, it's openly available, help yourself. Anyone else? Go on break?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.